Hello everyone and welcome to my The Young and the Restless official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. The Young and the Restless spoilers hint that Victor Newman's true revenge goal just might be to use Patty Williams to destroy Jack Abbott's marriage. R fans learned during the week of March 2nd fix that Victor had kidnapped Jack as a bargaining chip. He issued Billy Abbott a threat, either hand back Chancellor Industries or he'll never see Jack again. At the end of the Thursday, March 5th episode, fans learned that Jack was being held captive on a yacht in the middle of a body of water, whether that be an ocean or sea. Even if Jack wanted to escape, he'd really have nowhere to go. Jack was reeling during the Friday, March 6th show and deduced that Victor was behind all this and he was using him to get to Billy and Chancellor. Jack had hoped that Billy wouldn't comply with Victor's demands, but thanks to pressure from Diane Abbott and Kyle Abbott, it looks like his younger brother will. Regardless, another interesting development that was exposed on the March 6th episode is that Patty is also on the boat. She sauntered into Jack's room all dolled up and seemingly still very obsessed with her ex. As fans know, Patty has had an unhealthy love for Jack for decades now. She's gone to extreme lengths to get close to him in the past and also once partnered up with Victor to cause chaos in Jack's life. As it seems, history is repeating itself. With that said, while Victor is diabolical, it even seems way out of his character for him to physically harm or off Jack. So what's the mustache's angle? Could it be that Victor's two goals with this mission are to get Chancellor back while also stirring the pot in Jack's marriage? During the weekly preview video, a clip shows that Billy, Kyle and Diane will get a lead on where Jack is. In addition, a scene reveals that Patty will agree to help Jack escape via another boat, but she wants a kiss in return. Victor obviously has video surveillance of the entire yacht he has Jack captive on, not only for security reasons but perhaps to catch Jack doing something with Patty. Has this been Victor's plan all along, to kill two birds with one stone by getting Chancellor back but also wreaking havoc in Jack's marriage? Jack may cross a line with Patty in order to escape his predicament, and Diane may understand considering the circumstances, but if he cheated on her, it would still be a thorn in their marriage. It would pain Diane to see any footage of Jack kissing another woman, potentially doing the deed as well, and while Jack would have a good reason for it, could Diane erase this image in her mind once the seed has been planted? The Young and the Restless spoilers suggest that Jack crossing a line with Patty, even under the veil of saving his life and coming back home to Diane in Genoa City, would definitely cause problems, but could it also be the beginning of the end for their marriage? The storm clouds gathering over Genoa City seem to mirror the growing darkness behind one of the most dangerous games ever orchestrated by Victor Newman. According to explosive hints from the Young and the Restless spoilers, Victor's true revenge may not simply be about business power or corporate dominance. Instead, the master strategist might be plotting something far more personal, something that cuts straight into the heart of Jack Abbott's life by using the deeply unstable devotion of Patty Williams to shatter Jack's marriage. During the week of March 2nd through March 6th, viewers discovered that Victor had taken a shocking step that few could have predicted. In a ruthless move designed to force his enemies into submission, Victor kidnapped Jack and turned him into a bargaining chip in a high-stakes negotiation. His message was cold and direct, delivered like a threat carved in stone. Unless Billy Abbott handed back control of Chancellor Industries, Jack would never return home. The threat hung over the Abbott family like a shadow, sending ripples of panic through those who loved Jack most. As the Thursday, March 5th episode drew to its tense conclusion, viewers were finally shown where Jack had been hidden away. He wasn't locked in a typical prison cell or held somewhere on land where escape might at least be imaginable. Instead, Jack was being kept aboard a yacht floating in the middle of a vast body of water. Whether ocean or sea, it hardly mattered. The endless stretch of water surrounding the vessel made the situation even more terrifying, because even if Jack somehow managed to slip free of his confinement, there would be nowhere for him to run. The isolation was suffocating, the distant horizon offering no promise of rescue. When the Friday, March 6th episode unfolded, Jack's mind raced as he tried to make sense of the nightmare he had been pulled into. His instincts quickly led him to the truth. This had Victor written all over it. Jack realized he wasn't the real target of this plot. He was simply a pawn being used to manipulate Billy and force the return of Chancellor Industries. Despite the danger he faced, Jack still clung to one fragile hope. Deep down, he prayed that Billy would refuse to bow to Victor's demands even if it meant risking everything. But that hope began to crumble as pressure mounted back in Genoa City. Diane Abbott and Kyle Abbott were desperate to bring Jack home, and their fear began pushing Billy toward a decision he might not otherwise make. The emotional weight of the situation grew heavier with every passing hour, and it started to look more and more like Billy would ultimately surrender to Victor's ultimatum. Yet just when the situation seemed as bleak as it could possibly get, another shocking twist surfaced during the March 6th episode. Jack wasn't alone on that yacht after all. The door to his room opened, and in walked Patty Williams. Dressed up, confident, and carrying the unmistakable intensity of someone who had never truly let go of the man standing before her. For decades, Patty's obsession with Jack had hovered somewhere between tragic devotion and dangerous fixation. Her love for him had never been healthy, and over the years she had taken extreme and often disturbing steps to remain connected to him. At times, she had even aligned herself with Victor in schemes designed to tear apart Jack's life. And now, as she stood there on the yacht, it seemed painfully clear that history might be repeating itself yet again. But something about this entire situation raised even deeper questions. Victor Newman was ruthless, manipulative, and capable of chilling acts of revenge, but physically harming Jack or worse, eliminating him altogether, felt strangely out of character even for the mustache. Victor was many things, but senseless violence against Jack had never been his usual style. So what exactly was his endgame? A chilling possibility began to take shape as the pieces slowly fell into place. Perhaps Victor's plan had never been just about reclaiming Chancellor Industries. Perhaps this entire elaborate kidnapping had a second, far more personal objective, one designed to create chaos inside Jack's marriage. In the weekly preview video, a tense clip revealed that Billy, Kyle, and Diane would soon uncover a crucial lead pointing them toward Jack's location. Hope flickered for the Abbott family as the possibility of rescue finally appeared on the horizon. Yet at the same time, another scene hinted at a moment that could change everything. Patty, in an unexpected turn, appeared willing to help Jack escape the yacht using another boat. But her help came with a condition that only she could demand with such unsettling sincerity. She wanted a kiss from Jack in return. The request alone carried a heavy emotional charge, but what made it even more disturbing was the likelihood that Victor had anticipated this exact moment. A man as meticulous as Victor would never leave something like this to chance. The yacht almost certainly had surveillance cameras placed throughout the vessel, watching every hallway and every room. While the cameras could easily be justified as security measures to prevent Jack from escaping, they might also serve a far more calculated purpose. Victor could be waiting patiently behind the scenes, watching every movement and every interaction between Jack and Patty. If Jack crossed the line, even for the sake of survival, Victor would have the evidence he needed. It would be the perfect weapon to unleash against Jack's marriage once the ordeal was over. Suddenly, the horrifying brilliance of Victor's plan began to reveal itself. By kidnapping Jack, Victor could pressure Billy into surrendering Chancellor Industries. But by placing Patty in Jack's path at his most desperate moment, Victor might also be setting a trap designed to destroy Jack's relationship with Diane. If Jack gave Patty what she wanted, even briefly, it could be captured forever on video. From Victor's perspective, it would be the ultimate double victory. Two birds brought down with a single, perfectly aimed stone. The question now looming over the story was whether Jack would allow himself to cross that line. Faced with the possibility of escaping captivity and returning home to Genoa City, would he give Patty the kiss she demanded? Even if Jack's actions were driven purely by survival, the consequences could be devastating. Diane might understand why he did it, at least on the surface, knowing the impossible situation he had been placed in. She might even try to convince herself that Jack had no choice. But emotions rarely obey logic when betrayal enters the picture. Seeing footage of her husband kissing another woman, or worse, going further in a moment of desperate manipulation, would carve an image into Diane's mind that might never truly fade. The pain wouldn't come from a lack of understanding, it would come from the lingering question of whether that moment revealed something deeper. And once that seed of doubt was planted, it could grow into something neither Jack nor Diane could control. As the tension continues to rise, the future of Jack and Diane's marriage now hangs in a fragile balance. What begins as a desperate attempt to survive could easily spiral into a heartbreak neither of them ever expected. Jack might believe that crossing that line is the only way to make it back home alive, but the emotional aftermath waiting in Genoa City could be just as dangerous as the captivity he's trying to escape. According to spoilers from The Young and the Restless, this moment could spark a chain reaction of consequences that echoes far beyond the yacht. If Jack gives Patty what she wants, even under the desperate veil of saving his life, the damage might already be done. And what begins as Victor Newman's carefully crafted revenge could ultimately become the first crack in a marriage that once seemed unbreakable. The deeper the night stretched over the dark waters surrounding the yacht, the more the tension inside it thickened like a gathering storm. For Jack Abbott, every passing minute felt heavier than the last, as the realization of how carefully this trap had been constructed began to settle in. He was not just a hostage caught in a power struggle between business rivals, he was standing at the center of something far more calculated and cruel. Somewhere beyond those endless waves, Victor Newman was almost certainly watching, patiently waiting for the exact moment when desperation would force Jack to make a choice he could never take back. The yacht itself had become a silent stage for Victor's psychological warfare. Every hallway and cabin potentially monitored, every moment potentially recorded. Jack knew the man well enough to understand that nothing about this situation was accidental. If Patty was here, if she was suddenly offering him a way out, then Victor had likely predicted every second of it, long before Jack ever stepped foot on that boat. Across the city in Genoa City, anxiety was spreading through the Abbott family like wildfire. Diane Abbott could barely hold herself together as the hours dragged on without word from Jack, her thoughts swinging between hope and unbearable fear. She tried to convince herself that Jack was strong enough to survive whatever nightmare he had been thrown into, but the uncertainty gnawed at her relentlessly. Beside her, Kyle Abbott refused to sit idle while his father's fate remained unknown, pushing tirelessly for answers and leads that could bring them closer to finding him. Meanwhile, Billy Abbott found himself trapped in a brutal moral dilemma that threatened to tear him apart. Victor's ultimatum echoed in his mind again and again: return Chancellor Industries or risk losing Jack forever. Billy had fought too hard to reclaim power and independence to simply hand it back to Victor, but the thought of his brother suffering because of that refusal weighed heavily on his conscience. As pieces of information slowly began to surface, a fragile thread of hope finally appeared. The weekly preview hinted that Billy, Kyle, and Diane would stumble upon a critical lead pointing them toward Jack's location. The discovery ignited a spark of determination within the Abbott family, driving them to move faster and think sharper than ever before. Somewhere out there, floating in the darkness of open water, Jack was still alive and they were closer than ever to reaching him. Yet even as this hope began to grow, another moment was unfolding on the yacht that could alter everything forever. Inside Jack's room, the atmosphere grew tense as Patty Williams stood before him with a strange mixture of affection, longing, and unsettling excitement. Her eyes carried the same obsession that had haunted Jack for decades, the same unrelenting devotion that had driven her to extremes in the past. Patty's voice carried an eerie calm as she revealed that she could help Jack escape. Somewhere nearby, she explained, there was another boat, one that could take him away from the yacht and give him a real chance at freedom. For a brief moment, the possibility of escape felt almost surreal to Jack, like a lifeline suddenly appearing in the middle of a raging storm. But Patty wasn't offering that lifeline freely. She leaned closer, her expression soft yet unsettlingly intense, and laid out the condition that had clearly been lingering in her mind. If Jack wanted her help, if he truly wanted a chance to return home, then he would have to give her something she had dreamed about for years. She wanted a kiss. The request hung heavily in the air between them, turning what should have been a simple moment of negotiation into something emotionally dangerous. Jack felt the weight of the choice pressing down on him from every direction. On one hand, it was just a kiss, an empty gesture that meant nothing compared to the desperate need to escape captivity and return to the woman he loved. But on the other hand, he could almost feel Victor's invisible eyes watching from somewhere beyond the yacht's walls. Victor Newman was a man who rarely left loose ends, and it seemed almost certain that cameras were capturing everything happening inside the vessel. If Jack gave Patty what she wanted, that moment could be preserved forever, ready to be used as ammunition when the time was right. And that realization made Victor's strategy feel even more terrifying in its brilliance. This wasn't simply a kidnapping meant to reclaim Chancellor Industries. It was a carefully layered trap designed to create consequences that would ripple far beyond the immediate crisis. Victor could force Billy into surrendering the company he had fought so hard to reclaim. At the same time, he could engineer a moment that would send shockwaves through Jack's marriage once the truth inevitably surfaced. If Diane ever saw footage of Jack kissing Patty, or worse, no explanation might ever fully erase the image from her mind. Even if she understood the desperation behind it, the emotional wound could remain. Back in Genoa City, Diane's heart remained tethered to the hope that Jack would come home to her, safe and unharmed. She believed in the strength of their bond, in the love they had rebuilt after years of complicated history and painful mistakes. But Victor Newman knew exactly how fragile even the strongest relationships could be when doubt began to creep in. A single moment captured on camera and delivered at the perfect time could poison trust in ways that logic could never fully repair. Diane might tell herself that Jack had done whatever was necessary to survive. Yet the image of that kiss of Jack sharing a moment of intimacy with the woman who had obsessed over him for decades could become an emotional scar that refused to fade. As the drama continues to unfold on The Young and the Restless, the question now hanging over the story is not just whether Jack will escape the yacht. The deeper question is what price he will have to pay for that freedom. If Jack crosses that line with Patty, even for the sake of survival, the damage may already be set in motion. Victor Newman could emerge from this twisted game with exactly what he wanted. Chancellor Industries back in his control and chaos unleashed inside the Abbott family. And for Jack and Diane, what begins as a desperate fight for survival may ultimately mark the beginning of a painful new chapter, one where love must struggle to survive against the shadows of betrayal and manipulation.